Hello. Have you ever looked ahead at your life and felt unsure about what comes next? Maybe you have prayed, asked God for direction, and tried to be faithful, but the future still feels unclear. You want answers and reassurance. You want to know that things are going to work out. And when you cannot see what is ahead, it can be easy to feel anxious, restless, or even afraid. A lot of people say they trust God, but trusting God with your future is where that trust gets tested. It is one thing to trust God for today. It is another thing to trust Him with the parts of life you cannot control, cannot predict, and cannot fully understand yet. That is where many people struggle. Before we get into that, if you want to hear more content like this, hit the like, notifications, and subscribe buttons. This helps others to be able to see this video as well. I have so much more to share with you that will encourage you and give you hope. Okay, right now I'm going to share on how to trust God with your future. We want details and certainty about our future. We want the full plan. We want to know when things will happen, how they will happen, and what the outcome will be. But God often does not give us the whole picture all at once. He gives us enough direction and instruction for the next step. That can feel uncomfortable, especially if you are someone who wants stability, clarity, and control. But faith has never been about having every answer in advance. Faith is trusting the character of God when the future is still unfolding. And that is what you need to remember today. You do not have to know everything about your future in order to trust the God who already does. God is not guessing about your life. He is not confused about your timing. He is not reacting to your future. He is already there. What feels uncertain to you is not uncertain to Him. And that matters. Because when you start focusing only on what you do not know, fear gets louder. But when you focus on who God is, peace starts to return. Trusting God with your future starts with settling this in your heart. God is faithful even when life feels unclear. That means His goodness does not depend on whether you can see the next 5 years. His faithfulness does not disappear just because your plans changed. His wisdom is not limited by the doors that closed, the delays that you did not expect, or the uncertainty you are feeling right now. Some people are afraid of the future because they have already been disappointed by the past. They trusted and hoped before, they made plans before, and things did not go the way they thought. So now they approach the future guarded, hesitant, and full of questions. Maybe that is where you are right now. Maybe part of you wants to trust God, but another part of you is scared to hope too much, scared to believe too fully, scared to surrender because surrender feels vulnerable. But holding tightly to control does not create peace. It creates pressure. Trying to force your own certainty will wear you out. Real peace comes when you release the need to control what only God can see. That does not mean you stop being responsible or stop planning. It does not mean you stop taking action. It means you stop acting like the outcome depends entirely on you. There is a difference between wise stewardship and anxious control. Wise stewardship says, I will obey, prepare, and be faithful with what God has placed in front of me. Anxious control says, I need to figure everything out right now or I will not be okay. One comes from trust, the other comes from fear. You have to be honest about which one has been leading you. Sometimes trusting God with your future means letting go of your timeline. That is hard for many people because we attach peace to things happening by a certain age, in a certain order, or according to a certain plan. We tell ourselves, By now, I should be further ahead. By now, I should have more clarity. By now, I should have the opportunity, the relationship, the open door, the financial stability, the breakthrough, the children. And when life does not match the timeline we imagined, we start questioning everything. But your timeline is not your security. God is. Your future is not safe because you planned it perfectly. Your future is safe because it is in the hands of a faithful God. That does not mean that every season will be easy. It does mean that every season can be navigated with Him. You may not know exactly what is coming next, but you can know this: God can lead you. He can redirect you. God can provide for you. God can prepare you. And God can use every season that you did not choose. Nothing is wasted when it is placed in His hands. Even the waiting seasons, even the confusing seasons, and the quiet seasons. Some of the deepest growth happens in seasons where you do not yet have the answers you want. That is where trust is built, character is formed, and your dependence on God deepens. That is where God teaches you to walk by faith and not by sight. Trusting God with your future also means refusing to let fear narrate your life. Fear will always paint the worst case scenarios and tell you what could go wrong. Fear will always magnify uncertainty and ignore faithfulness, God's faithfulness. But fear is a terrible leader. You cannot build a peaceful future while being driven by panic. At some point, you have to decide that God's voice will matter more than your worries. That means when fear says, "What if it all falls apart?" faith answers, "God will still be with me." When fear says, "What if I miss it?" faith answers, "God is able to guide me." When fear says, "What if nothing changes?" fear answers, "God is still working even when I cannot see it yet." This is where trusting God with your future becomes real in everyday life. It is not only about big spiritual language, it is about what you do when life feels uncertain in practical ways. Maybe you're working for a job that drains you, and you know deep down in that you're meant for something more, but you do not yet see the full path. Trusting God with your future means you do not panic just because the next step is not fully clear. Maybe God puts a business, book, ministry, or idea in your heart, but because you cannot see how it will all come together, you have been hesitating. Trusting God with your future may look like taking the first step before everything makes sense. Maybe you are doing your best financially, but the future still feels heavy. Bills are real. Pressure is real. The need for provision is real. Trusting God with your future does not mean pretending money does not matter. It means you manage what is in your hands wisely while refusing to believe lack has the final word over your life. Maybe you thought by now a relationship would have worked out, or someone would have stayed, or restoration would have come. Trusting God with your future means believing your life is still in good hands, even when people disappoint you. Maybe you are in a season where it feels like everyone else is moving forward and you are still waiting. With no clear answers, no visible breakthrough, no obvious sign that things are changing. Trusting God with your future means believing that silence is not the same as abandonment. Maybe your concern is not only your own future, but your children, your family, or the people connected to you. Trusting God with your future means trusting Him with what concerns you most. Maybe life did not go the way you expected. Maybe you've had to rebuild after loss, rejection, failure, or a setback. that you never saw coming. After pain like that, the future can feel very unsafe. But trusting God with your future means refusing to let one painful season define the rest of your life. Maybe you're not rebellious, you're just unclear. You want direction, but you do not know what's next. Trusting God with your future means taking the step you do know instead of freezing over the ones you do not know. For some people, the future feels heavy because of money or a lack of money. For others, it feels heavy because of loneliness, missed opportunities, or unanswered prayers. Some are just trying to trust God while rebuilding after disappointment or failure. Others are trying to trust Him while raising children, carrying family burdens, or starting over later than they expected. This is where trust becomes real. Not when life feels easy, but when life feels uncertain, and you still choose to believe God is faithful. Trust is strengthened when you remember what God has already done. Look back at your life. There were seasons you thought would break you. There were moments you did not know how you would get through. There were times you lacked answers, strength, clarity, and resources. And yet God brought you through. Maybe not always in the way you expected. Maybe not always on the timeline you wanted, but He was faithful. The same God who carried you this far is not going to fail you in what is ahead. So how do you trust God with your future? You stop demanding full visibility before you obey. You pray honestly. You release what you cannot control. You keep showing up in faith. You take the next step that He has made clear. And you let peace come from His presence, not from having the whole plan or having everything figured out. You do not need a guarantee of every detail. You need confidence in the one who holds every detail. So if your future feels uncertain right now, let this be your reminder. You are not walking into tomorrow alone. God is already there. He sees what you cannot see. He knows what you do not know. And He is fully able to lead your life better than fear ever could. Trust Him with your future, not because you have every answer, but because He is trustworthy. If this encouraged you, leave a comment that says, "I trust God with my future." And if you are in a season of uncertainty right now, subscribe and stay connected for more faith-based encouragement. I'll see you in the next video, and remember, I'm cheering you on.